Hey guys, today I'm filming a review video on the Bad Habit Supernova palette, which is the dupe for the Natasha Denona Lila palette. You guys probably have heard of this palette, have heard of this brand. A lot of people have made YouTube videos on these palettes. So Bad Habit and Face Candy are the two brands that make the most dupe palettes that you can purchase from Shop Hush, which is a very expensive online retailer, which really put these brands on the map, at least as far as I'm aware. And you can get this palette for $16, which is an amazing price for 15 shades. This is definitely on par with drugstore prices, even a little bit better. And if you purchase from the Shop Hush website, you can get free shipping, which is fantastic. So I definitely recommend that if you're interested in picking anything up. And I am excited to finally try out one of these palettes to see if I think it is as good as everybody else does. So to go over the packaging, it does have that nice sturdy cardboard with a magnetic closure that you guys know I love so much. Even though this is an affordable palette, the packaging does not feel cheap to me. It is very sturdy. You do also get a nice size mirror in here, which I was happy to see, because with some brands they choose not to add a mirror, save a few dollars, but this is an inexpensive palette and it includes a nice size mirror, so I definitely appreciate that. I also like that this palette is relatively thin. When you open it up, there isn't a ton of excess packaging around the shades, which I think is fantastic because it makes it easier to store and it makes me more likely to reach for this. I have some palettes that are just a weird shape or they're really huge and I don't want to pull them out as often just because the packaging annoys me. So this is absolutely perfect. And the design here is this nice hot pink to purple ombre, and you got some wavy patterns in there. It's nice and simple but really pretty as well. So to go over these shades in this palette, you do have 11 shimmers and 4 mattes, which I think is fantastic. Now I might have preferred to have 10 shimmers and 5 mattes, but this is still pretty good. So I know a lot of people prefer palettes that are half shimmer, half matte, or maybe 25% shimmer and 75% matte. But for me, I prefer having a larger amount of shimmers because I feel like looks appear more different when you have a different shimmery lid color, because with these I did use the same mattes and my looks did end up looking different because the shimmers in this palette are so different. And then of course, depending on the blush and the lip color I wore with them, that made them look different as well. But all of that to say, I really do appreciate the shimmer to matte ratio, and I guess we can't really thank this palette. We need to thank Natasha Denona for that, but that definitely fits my preference. So I'm going to show you all of the shades up close. I will show you swatches, and I have seen Temptalia review this palette, so I'm pretty sure that means she will have dupes for it as well. So I will have that linked down below. So here are the shades up close. They are all a shimmer unless I state otherwise. Serious, Red Giant, Brilliance, Solar, Innerstellar, which is a matte, Ursa, Andromeda, Nebula, Cosmos, and Zenith, which is a matte. Lunar is a matte, Spirit, Andromeda, Flare, and Celestial, which is a matte. Then we have all of the shimmers: Serious, Red Giant, Brilliance, Solar, Ursa, which is my least favorite shade, Andromeda, Nebula, Cosmos, Spirit, Aurora, and Flare. So here are the 4 matte shades in this palette: Lunar, which is not looking so gray right now for some reason, Zenith, Celestial, and Innerstellar. So I was able to create 7 different looks with this palette, which is pretty darn good for me. And again, that has to do with the shimmer to matte ratio. I could have created 11 looks with this palette because there are 11 different shimmers. And of course I could have created an all matte look, but I don't typically do that. And I basically just ran out of days before filming this review to create different looks on camera for you guys, but I am really happy with the amount of looks that I was able to create. So I am going to insert all of those clips now. Here is today's look using my palette of the month. I use Brilliance on my lid, Zenith as my transition color, and Celestial as my crease color. Here are what the eyes look like up close. On my cheeks, I'm wearing theBalm blush in Cabana Boy. On my lips, I'm wearing the Maybelline Shine Compulsion lipstick in Taupe Seductress. Here's today's look using my palette of the month. I'm wearing Cosmo as my lid shade, Zenith as my transition color, and Celestial as my outer corner color. Here are what the eyes look like up close. On my cheeks, I'm wearing NARS blush in Outlaw. On my lips, I'm wearing the Anastasia liquid lipstick in the shade Allison. Here is today's look using my palette of the month. I'm wearing Spirit on my lid, Zenith as my transition color, Celestial as my crease color, and a little bit of Innerstellar in the outer corner. Here are what the eyes look like up close. On my cheeks, I'm wearing the Tarte Amazonian Clay blush in Exposed. On my lips, I mixed together two liquid lipsticks. This is the ColourPop Ultra Satin Lip in Tiny Chum from the Hello Kitty collection, and this is the ColourPop Ultra Matte Lip in the shade Lumiere 2. Here is today's look using my palette of the month. I use Solar as my lid shade, Zenith as my transition shade, Celestial as a crease color, and Innerstellar as my outer corner color. Here are what the eyes look like up close. On my cheeks, I'm wearing theBalm Cabana Boy blush. On my lips, I'm wearing the Pop Sugar Be the Boss lip gloss in the shade Time After Time. Here is today's look using my palette of the month. For my transition and crease color, I use this shade from the Huda Beauty Mauve Obsessions palette. From the Bad Habit Supernova palette, I used Red Giant as my lid shade and Celestial as my outer corner outer crease color. Here are what the eyes look like up close. On my cheeks, I'm wearing theBalm Cabana Boy blush. On my lips, I'm wearing the MAC PatentPolish lip pencil in Kittenish. Here's today's look using my palette of the month. Aurora as my lid shade, Zenith as my transition shade, and Celestial as my outer corner outer crease color. I also applied Lunar as my crease color, but I really didn't enjoy it, so I basically went over top with these other two shades here. Here are what the eyes look like up close. On my cheeks, I'm wearing Hourglass Mood Flush from the Ambient Edit Unlocked palette. On my lips, I'm wearing the ColourPop Ultra Matte Lip in Lumiere 2. Here's today's look using my palette of the month. For my transition color, I use Makeup Geek Cupcake. I use Serious on my lid and Celestial as my outer corner outer crease color. Here are what the eyes look like up close. On my cheeks, I'm wearing Clinique Cheek Pop in Heather Pop. On my lips, I'm wearing the Dose of Colors liquid lipstick in Stone. So now to talk about the formula, the texture, and the pigmentation. So all of these are incredibly pigmented, both the shimmers and the mattes, which I think is very impressive. Some drugstore shadows you really have to build up. They seem very sheer and patchy, not these. These shadows are very pigmented, which I really appreciate. But now for the formula and the texture, not my favorite. Like, not terrible, but not my favorite either. With the shimmer shades, I felt like they were pretty darn flaky, and the mattes were so powdery. It was insane. And yes, I am used to powdery shadows. I enjoy some formulas of powdery shadows, but I will have to insert some clips of me doing an eye look, the intense amount of eyeshadow under my eyes and on my cheek was disgusting. Like, I would tap off my brush. I wasn't loading it up with product, and the amount of shadow on my face was insane. So it did happen with the shimmers as well, but mostly with the mattes, it was out of control. I don't know if I've ever had that much fallout on my face from an eyeshadow palette before. So I will insert these pictures and hopefully you guys can get just a little bit of understanding about the intensity of this fallout. With all of that to say, though, these did blend out very nicely. I was worried about these mattes, that they were going to look a little bit choppy and patchy because they are more cool tone. I don't know if it's the way that cool tones are formulated or the way they look on my skin tone. I feel like they can look a little bit uneven, but I did not have that problem with these. So if you do not mind a bunch of kick up or powdery fallout on your face, and I think that you can look past it, and it was very easy to brush away. I just waited until I did all of my eyeshadow, then just brushed it away and it was fine. But now to talk about the colors themselves, I wanted to mention my favorite and my least favorite shades. So my least favorite shades are going to be the most gray toned in the palette because I like cool tones but not gray, and that would be these two shades, Ursa, which is a shimmer, and then we have Lunar, which is a matte. I did not use Ursa, but I did try to use Lunar one day. Oh my gosh, was that hideous. Like, that type of like wet cement color looked disgusting on my eyes. So I went over it with some other colors. I tried my best. Like, the formula was okay, but that color was just absolutely hideous. But then my favorite shades in this palette would definitely be this Taupe color, Brilliance. I thought this might be really similar to Urban Decay's YDK, which is my favorite taupe ever, but it's different and it looks so beautiful. I also am obsessed with this color, Cosmo. It is a beautiful gold color with a little bit of copper mixed in, and I of course also love this orangey copper color, Solar. I think that one is absolutely stunning. Red Giant was a really pretty, brighter, colorful shade. Aurora, really pretty deep purple. Spirit was a really unique color. And then for the mattes, I did like all three of these over here, but the ones I definitely use the most would be Zenith and Celestial, and I usually use those in combination, but I do enjoy the shades in this palette, especially the shimmers. But I would like there to be some more mattes or some different mattes. Of course, like, if they could just get rid of those two shades, I would love that because I think that they're a little ugly personally. And especially that matte, I'm just like, no, like some of these colors like these two here are pretty warm, so something more neutral or warm would be nice, but then I think it would throw off the vibe of the palette. So I will show you a couple of things I decided to add in, or colors that I thought would look nice with this palette. So for the look I'm using today, I used Makeup Geek Cupcake, which is more pinky tone than the other mattes in this palette, but I think it worked so well with the look that I created today, and this is also on the lighter side. All of these are more of a medium deep tone, so depending on your skin tone, there might not be anything great for a transition color. I just had to use a light amount of product with the Zenith shade. Then we have NYX Coquette, which is more purple tone, but again, some of those are more gray, more brown. They're cool tone, but this one is more purple, which I think would be so beautiful. With one of the looks, I took this shade right here from the Huda Beauty Mauve Obsessions, which was pretty, but almost a little too bright pink, and I think it may have been better if I use something like Makeup Geek Cupcake, but of course it depends on your skin tone. And something that could have been nice as a companion palette for the matte shades would be the Dose of Colors Marvelous Mauves palettes. So for my final thoughts on this palette, I did enjoy it. I was a little disappointed because I've heard everybody say how incredible these are, and I do think they're good, especially for their price, but the insane amount of fallout on my face made me feel like these aren't as amazing as everybody says they are. Something I forgot to mention is that, as I do with all of my powder shadows, but I felt like it was necessary for these especially, I did put a cream base on my lid to help the shadow adhere to my eye. As I said, I do think these are kind of flaky, so having that cream base underneath really was necessary for these to make them adhere to the eye and to look even more vibrant. So I don't necessarily see this becoming my new holy grail palette, but I can see myself reaching for this for a couple of shades, especially that gold Cosmo and that beautiful taupe Brilliance. Those are so amazing, and I have things similar but nothing quite like these. I do think that she came up with some really cool shades, and you might think some of these are kind of random to put together, but as a whole, I think the palette makes sense. So if you are interested in the color selection in the Natasha Denona Sunset palette or Lila palette, I would definitely recommend checking out the Bad Habit ones because you will save yourself a ton of money. But I did want to quickly touch on the fact that some people feel like it is very wrong for brands to be financially profiting off an idea they copied from another brand, and I totally get that. I feel like there are ways that you can make dupes without it being a necessary ripoff, but these do feel a bit like a ripoff. But at the same time, I would say that if you want to buy a Natasha Denona palette, you're going to buy a Natasha Denona palette. And for me, I never would have bought one of her large ones, no matter what the shades were in it. The little $25 palettes, I can buy those. But the big ones, I would never spend that much money. Even if this dupe did not exist, I never would have spent that much money. But it is really nice that I was able to try out those shades for a much, much cheaper price. But I understand that, like, let's say that I made a product, someone completely ripped it off and it got super popular, there was so much hype. Yeah, I'd be freaking upset about that because it was my hard work to create that product and you copied it. So I can totally see both sides there. I think it's great that they do have these really nice expensive palettes for an affordable price. And again, you are paying for the quality because the quality of Natasha Denona might be much, much better than the quality of the Bad Habit palette. So of course you cannot buy this $16 palette expecting it to perform like a $150 palette. You just can't. So I can see both sides of it, and I don't think any of the brands have tried to sue Bad Habit or Face Candy for copying their products, so I feel like it's up to the brands, but I don't know. I would love to know your thoughts on that, whether you think that Bad Habit, Face Candy are just like total ripoffs and that they should not be doing this, that they need to come up with their own palettes, their own unique ideas. I would love to know your all's thoughts on that. And I would love to know your thoughts if you've tried this palette or any of the other palettes that you can buy from the Shop Hush website. Let me know what you think of the quality, which ones are your favorites, your least favorite. I would love to know because, as I said, this is the only one that I've tried. So thank you all so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.